In this video, we're going to go over how to do a engraving of an image that you find online. The first step is obviously finding a picture online that you want to engrave. There's a couple considerations to have when looking at an image. Number one is that the higher resolution the picture is, the better the engraving is going to come out. So when you search for an image, and you click on it and you put your cursor over it, on the bottom right hand corner you're going to see two numbers. And those two numbers describe how many pixels are in that image. So this picture is 880 pixels by 1000 pixels. That's pretty good. The CNC machine works on mathematical points, which are called vectors. Pixels are used in photographs, and they are very small squares that make up a photo. The more pixels that are in a picture, the higher resolution it's going to be. Because it's going to end up being higher resolution and higher quality, it will be easier for VCarve to trace the photo. Ideally, you want to stick to something that's at least 800 by 800 pixels. Sometimes lower resolution pictures will work fine. Sometimes they won't. So you could still experiment, especially if you really want this specific design that's only available in a lower resolution photo. You can try it. But just know if you're running into issues, that could be why. This picture here is 700 by 504 pixels. And you can tell just by looking at this picture, it already looks kind of fuzzy. It's not very crisp like the other example. If you wanted to trace and engrave this image, most likely it wouldn't come out as nice as some of the other images here that are higher resolution. When you pick out your image, you can right click on it, hit copy image, then you can open up VCarve once you set your workspace and all that stuff. If you right click and paste, it will appear on your project. So I right click, I paste, and here it is. I already have it there, so I'm going to delete this one. Now you're going to want to trace this image. In order to trace the image, you have to use this trace bitmap function. So I click trace bitmap. I select the image that I want to trace. We'll start off with the turtle one. The default setting here is usually about 0.50. And then I can mess with these filters to change how the computer traces the image. So I'm going to hit preview. If I don't like the way that the program traced this image, I can try to manipulate some of these filters to change it. So if I change some of these, preview, it did change it a little bit. Remember, no change will happen until you hit preview. I'm going to put this back to the default settings because that seemed fine. When you're happy with how it looks, you hit apply. And you will have a traced image. This image came out great because it was higher resolution and it was in black and white, so there was lots and lots of contrast. It's going to come out great. I'm going to show you what this military logo would come out like. This military logo is colored, but I'm still going to stick with black and white to trace it. I've had pretty good luck keeping it black and white. If you want to experiment with the color, you need to pick out which colors it's going to trace. And sometimes it can be a little complex and not come out too good. You're welcome to try it, but I would probably stick with black and white, at least in the beginning. Again, I can change the threshold. Usually the higher towards the max that you put it, the more vivid it will be. You'll get more details. I'll keep these all kind of towards the middle, and I'll hit preview. And you can mess around with these settings to see, obviously, if you change them, you'll start to get different results. I was wrong. The more detailed it is, usually is more towards the minimum, it looks like. So these different settings can balance each other out and get it to automatically trace it in different ways. I'm happy with how this looks. This is overall pretty detailed enough for what I'm doing right now. So I'm going to hit apply. Now I'm done tracing, so I'm going to close out of this tool. And I want to delete the image. So the image is still here, this image that I copied and pasted. But I can't do anything with an image. It's pixels, like I said. And the CNC machine only uses mathematical points. So I'm just going to delete that. And I'm going to do the same thing with the turtle image. I'm going to move my vector. And I'm going to delete the image I had. Now in this turtle example, it traced it really nicely. I'm really happy. I don't want to make any changes. I'm going to just leave it. In this marine flag example, there's 2 dots up here. If I leave these 2 dots, the CNC machine, when I do the V-carve engrave, is going to actually remove the material inside those dots, which I don't want. It's not going to look good. I also have this box. If I leave this box, it's going to engrave that material on the outside here. I'll show you what that looks like. Now, if you want this to be left, that's okay. But I really don't want that. I just want the logo, because to me this looks kind of funny. In order to do that, you have to edit this image. So the way that the machine traces the image will end up affecting how the engraving happens. Depending upon the features that are here, it changes this end result. Sometimes if it doubles up the lines, like in this example where you have multiple sets of lines here for the shell, sometimes it will look funny and you need to delete some of those lines. It really depends on the image and what you want. So I don't really like how this has come out. I click it, make it purple, right click, and I'm going to ungroup it. When I ungroup it, now I can pick specific parts of this image and I can delete them. If you're working with a lower quality image, it's probably going to trace it weird, and you're probably going to have to go there and delete some stuff. Like let's say if I delete some of these little specks here, it's going to come out way nicer. So I'm just selecting this and deleting it, because really it should have only traced it on the outside. You can spend a lot of time editing up an image and it will make it nicer. When you're done with the image, make sure you make a big box by left clicking and dragging so you highlight it all, and then right click and group it. Now it's back as one unit, and I can resize it, move it, do whatever I want with it. Now that I finished editing my images, I'm actually going to delete my former V-carve because I don't want it anymore. And I'm going to machine my two drawings. Doing a V-carve with my half-inch bit, which I made 5/8 tool diameter. Hit calculate. Reset my preview. And I have my engravings. Once you do your engravings, make sure you take a close look. Make sure it looks good. I hit the button by accident. And this looks very detailed. If you're happy with it, you can do this on your project. In assignment 2, your goal will be to create a project where you take an image online, trace it, and engrave it. You don't have to use text, but I would encourage you to use text too so you get a nicer project. So maybe you want to use this military seal and you know somebody who's in the military and you put their name or something like that on it. With all this information, you should be able to complete assignment 2.